Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. In Mexico, leftist politician Andrés Manuel López Obrador, also known as AMLO, has claimed victory after winning Sunday's presidential elections by a landslide, vowing to transform Mexico by reducing corruption and violence.
The new project of the nation will seek to establish an authentic democracy. We don't bet on building an open or closed dictatorship. The changes will be profound, but will happen with a strict adherence to the legal established order. There will be corporate freedom, freedom of expression, of association, and of beliefs. We will guarantee all the individual and social freedoms, as well as the political rights of citizens, consecrated in our Constitution. The transformation will consist of banishing corruption from our country. We won't have a problem in achieving this objective because the people of Mexico are the heir of great civilizations.
Preliminary election results show López Obrador, the former mayor of Mexico City, capturing at least 53% of the vote, more than twice that of his closest rival. The three main rival candidates have already conceded. AMLO's victory comes after the most violent electoral season in modern Mexican history. At least 136 politicians have been assassinated in Mexico since September. A number of journalists have also been killed in the lead-up to Sunday's elections, including reporter Jose Guadalupe Chancip, who was killed Friday night in the southern state of Quintana Roo. On Sunday night, thousands of voters poured into the Zócalo in Mexico City to celebrate López Obrador's victory.
My name is Abelina Fonseca Orozco. Obviously, I voted for Andrés Manuel López Obrador, just as I did 6 years ago when I could first vote. We desire real change. We are sick of the injustice, inequality, corruption, and the impunity that prevails in this country. We want a change, and this change will happen with Obrador, because in his plans for the nation, he proposes many things, such as scholarships, yes, and assassins, no, as well as food sovereignty, recovery in rural areas, and help for migrants. We want to recover this country, and that is why we want López Obrador to be president.
We'll go to Mexico City for more on AMLO's historic election after headlines. Tens of thousands poured into the streets across the United States Saturday for a national day of action protesting President Trump's zero-tolerance immigration crackdown. Organizers say there were up to 700 rallies nationwide, including on the U.S.-Mexico International Bridge in El Paso, Texas. This is Fernando Garcia.
It is in this bridge where many asylum seekers have been turned back and turned away from protection and from petitioning for asylum in this bridge. I think that is not only violating the law, international law, but also national law. The idea that there are families looking for protection and these officers are here telling them to go away. Obviously, there is a common demand, and the common demand is that we cannot treat immigrants as criminals, we cannot put them in jail, and much less incarcerate children the way that the United States is doing.
The rallies came 24 hours after the Trump administration claimed in a court filing it has the right to jail migrant families indefinitely, despite a 1997 court settlement that says the government must release migrant children from detention within 20 days. From coast to coast Saturday, protesters demanded an end to family separation and detention. This is actress and activist Laverne Cox speaking at the rally in Los Angeles.
America, we are here because we believe that families belong together. We are here because our hearts are broken. But let us not forget that this country was built on the backs of slave labor that routinely stripped children from the custody of their parents.
Later in the broadcast, we'll air more voices from Saturday's Families Belong Together rallies protesting President Trump's immigration crackdown and the separation of families. President Trump says he'll announce his Supreme Court nominee July 9th, that's next Monday, and that he's considering 2 women as possible replacements for retiring Supreme Court Justice Anthony Kennedy. Both Republican and Democratic opposition is mounting to President Trump's potential nominee. Maine Republican Senator Susan Collins and South Carolina Republican Senator Lindsey Graham both say they'll oppose any nominee who's openly hostile to Roe v. Wade. Meanwhile, Democrats are demanding confirmation hearings for Kennedy's replacement be delayed until after the midterm elections. This is New York Democratic congressional candidate Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
I would like the Senate to delay. Absolutely. We need to delay until after the midterm elections. That's my personal opinion. And I think that at the very least we need to, if this appointment is going to happen, at the very least we can do is delay the timeline in which women's health care is going to be taken away, delay the timeline in which our civil rights could potentially be further eroded. Alexandria
Ocasio-Cortez was speaking on Meet the Press. Meanwhile, new revelations show the close financial ties between President Trump and Justice Anthony Kennedy's son, Justin Kennedy, who served as the global head of real estate capital markets for Deutsche Bank. The New York Times reports under Justin Kennedy's leadership, Deutsche Bank loaned Donald Trump $1 billion for renovation and construction of buildings in New York and Chicago at a time when many other banks refused to lend to Trump because of his troubled financial history. In Afghanistan, at least 19 people were killed in the eastern city of Jalalabad in a suicide bomb attack targeting a group of Sikhs and Hindus who were waiting to meet Afghan President Ashraf Ghani on Sunday. Among the victims of the attack was Avtar Singh Khalsa, who is the only Sikh candidate running in Afghanistan's upcoming parliamentary elections in October. The bombing came less than 24 hours after another attack in Jalalabad, in which militants beheaded 3 workers at a boys' high school, then set fire to the school's library. No group has claimed responsibility for either attack, though officials have blamed ISIS militants. In Gaza, thousands of Palestinians gathered Saturday for a funeral procession for Yasser Abu al-Naja, a child shot and killed by an Israeli sniper during Friday protests near the separation fence with Israel. Israeli soldiers have killed at least 25 Palestinian children so far this year, 11 of the children shot by Israeli snipers in the head or neck. In total, Israeli soldiers have killed at least 136 Palestinians and wounded over 14,000 more since the Palestinians' nonviolent Great March of Return protests began on March 30th. In Syria, more than 150,000 people have been forced to flee their homes amidst the Syrian government's ongoing offensive in the southwest province of Daraa. The region is one of the last 2 rebel-held territories in Syria. Meanwhile, in more news on Syria, the Pentagon's admitted a U.S. airstrike on the Syrian city of Raqqa last March killed 40 civilians. The bombing struck a school where displaced civilians were taking refuge. A federal judge has temporarily blocked the Trump administration from ending the FEMA Emergency Housing Assistance Program for nearly 2,000 Puerto Ricans displaced by Hurricane Maria. The temporary restraining order came after the civil rights group Latino Justice Pearl Deaf sued the administration. In Portland, Oregon, far-right-wing demonstrators clashed with anti-fascist protesters Saturday in what the city declared was a riot. The clashes began after the far-right Patriot Prayer Group tried to host a rally in downtown Portland. Anti-fascist protesters then gathered for a counter-rally. At least 4 people were arrested. And Seattle, Washington, has become the first major city in the United States to ban plastic straws, utensils, and other single-use plastic items. The ban is part of a global effort to reduce plastic waste, which is contaminating the oceans and contributing to the global pollution crisis. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman.